A lot of the people in the Black conscious community, they study and they've been known about the what is known as the law of attraction for years now. A lot of them use it to their advantage. A lot of them study it, and they know about magnetism and how you like attract like and all that stuff. But rarely did they take um, the law of attraction and the concept of the law of attraction the to the level of racism or regarding the topic of racism. When are you gonna ask yourself, how did you attract racism in your life? How did your ancestors attract slavery? I think some of some of you are starting to figure out the truth and to understand that this law of attraction, and I hate this word, I rather use magnetism, because the universe is a big portion of what makes everything in the universe is electromagnetism and magnetism. So everything that exists around us is 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 what we've attracted, right? According to our vibration. And I think a lot of the people in the black conscious community, they understand this concept, and now more and more, as people wake up, I'm sure they're starting. A lot of them are starting to see that maybe this also applies to racism, because it applies to everything in your life, and you choose your life. So you can't tell me you choose your life and like attract life and like attract like and you create your reality, but you're not applying that to racism. And I think a lot of them are afraid to look at that, because they're gonna find that they have a big responsibility in creating a different reality as far as racism, just like they had a responsibility in creating racism. You know, you'd have to ask yourself, how did you attract white people in your life? How did you attract um, white people's bigotry in your life? How did you attract slavery, Jim Crowe, apartheid, everything throughout history that is related to racism? But let's just talk about this. How did black people attract racism? By vibrating to the frequency of racism. And vibrating to the frequency of slavery is how you attract slavery. And what is that? What is vibrating to the, well, how does one, or does a people in this case vibrate to the frequency of slavery? Same way that their so-called enemies saw them, by seeing themselves in the way that white people saw them. And that comes from black people feeling inferior. If people see you as inferior, if people see you as worthless, if people um, see you as less than, then you are attracting that for some reason. It's because a part of you feel that way, and a part of you felt that way before even slavery happened, because there's no way you could attract that in your life if you weren't vibrating to the frequency of victimhood. So already you were suffering with a certain level of victimhood before slavery happened, right? And I think a lot of people in the black conscious community is afraid to look at that, because then that is going to say to them that a lot of their problems that they're blaming on the white man didn't start with the white man. Or even if it started with the white man, it started with the white man before this most recent chattel slavery in the Americas and in the Caribbean, right? Now, how does vibrating to the frequency of inferiority, worthlessness, and victim and the victim mentality attract? How does that work with the law of attraction and magnetism? Well, first, we have to understand how these things work. And we have to understand that since you had victimhood before slavery, then you must have came from somewhere. Now, there's a bunch of different factors that came along with that played into um, the whole victimhood mindset with black people throughout history and prehistory. And I'm not going to go into all of that. At when I start making more professional videos, I'm going to probably go into all of that. But you have to understand that we choose our life, we choose our parents, we choose our life according to how we want our purpose to line up in this life. Our life intention is um, a pre-existing thing that happens before we enter a life. So you choose you chose your life, you chose racism, and you chose slavery, and you chose all of these things, black people. Why? Because racism exists to facilitate each black person's personal, emotional, and spiritual growth. We knew before we came into this life as black, and our ancestors and everybody who were black throughout history knew that if we incarnated as black, it would result in a certain amount of pain and problems, and the kind of reality with this kind of pain is what our soul's purpose is resonating with at this time. Meaning that when we enter a life, we're there to carry out our personal life purpose, and collectively we are carrying out a collective purpose, but our personal purpose um, contributes to the collective purpose, right? So within this time, we incarnated as black to um, to 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 allow the problems of being black to take us to where we want it to take us as far as our personal spiritual growth. We knew that if we incarnated in this time and in this space right now as black, we would experience a certain amount of pain and a certain amount of problems that will um, catalyze a certain amount of emotional response that is necessary for our personal growth in this life and our spiritual growth in this life. Okay? So the problems of being black at this time helps the people, the people who incarnate, the souls that incarnated as black, to carry out a certain purpose for their personal growth and for the collective um, uh, universal intention at this time. So black people chose blackness, and we chose black parents, and the living situation and the political, social situations that would create all the adversities, the politics that we are facing today and have faced throughout history. When black people started to experience what it meant to be black on earth, they fell deeper into this state of victimhood that attracted more victimization. So, when you came in as black, you came into to experience this victimhood and to experience the pain and the oppression and all that. But of course, that is going to send us deeper into that very state. And now we are in a state where it's just, it takes a lot of work to get out of, and to do the healing that we need to do, and the understanding that we need to get from um, from this particular experience. So we have to wake up and realize that we created this for ourselves, for our personal growth and our spiritual growth, and for the universal intention, and how being black is going to relate to this universal intention, how it's going to take us to where we need to go in this life and for future lifetimes. So we have to learn how to come out of this victimhood, and we have to realize that we chose this life. We chose racism. We chose um, slavery. We chose these things because it's supposed to teach us so much. But because of the way this life is set up, it's not easy for us to see that we chose it. And even when we find out we chose it, we did choose it. Um, Most people don't know, still don't understand how to do the healing work to release the pain and to come out of this victimhood, because victimhood it serves some people, and some people don't want to get out of it because they don't want to blame themselves. They don't want to realize that, they don't want to face the reality that they did choose this life, because if they chose it, it means that they have a responsibility to work on taking themselves out of it. And people are afraid people are afraid of responsibility, because responsibility is painful and makes you feel like you're powerless, and people are afraid to face that powerlessness. And as long as they continue to be afraid of it, and to serve that fear, rather than acknowledging that they created the reality, they created this life. As long as they continue to be stuck in this victimhood mindset, they're gonna be stuck there, and you're gonna continue to attract racism. And who knows, you might, if you're vibrating the frequency of victimhood, that is the frequency of slavery. That's how you ended up in slavery, and who knows, you could end up right back in slavery if you don't wake up and realize that you created this life, and you're here to learn how to uncreate these things as a black person.